Let's talk now about the filters that are available to us. Okay, so we saw that the filters get turned on using this icon. I turned it on initially because normally, remember, when you apply a format for a table, you get those turned on by default. Okay, so again, if you didn't want those, you could just click the button and they go right away. But the benefit of the filter is this. Let's say, for instance, that I wanted to, it wasn't just enough to sort by the salesperson. I only want to see the sales rep Buchanan's sales figures. I don't care about the other person right now. If that's the case, I can click on this drop-down arrow and I can remove the check mark in front of this secondary salesperson. And when I click OK, I now will limit my table to only containing the Buchanan sales figures. I can actually filter on more than one category if I want, on more than one of these field headings. Let's say I'm interested in Buchanan, but I only want to see Buchanan's numbers for produce. I can come right over here, remove dairy, and now I've limited this to just produce. Now notice what it's doing over here. Do you see the numbers that we see here? It's basically just hiding the rest of the data. So it's still there. It's just hidden. And we saw in the, I think it was in the introductory class, we saw how we could hide columns and hide rows. And that's what Excel's doing automatically here for us. It's hiding those columns and hiding those rows. Now, if you wanted to clear out your filters and return the entire data table, the fastest way to do that is to use this clear icon within the sort and filter section. Okay, that'll just automatically remove it and put it back to just straight information, all the information that's there. You'll probably notice, I don't know if you noticed or not, but when you have a filter running, the arrow icon here changes in appearance. And it shows you that that is the category that's currently being filtered by. All right. When you clear it, automatically that's going to disappear. So let's take a look at another kind of filter. We just took a look at a couple of very, very simple basic filters. Let's take a look at some that are a little bit more advanced. All right. Let's say that you know for a fact that in this units category, you didn't have all of the units information available when the data entry was going on. So when this was getting entered, you knew that there were a couple of places where the numbers, the figures weren't available. You now have those figures and you want to put them in. But imagine, remember, we can have over 1 million rows of data within this table. Imagine you had not even half that amount. Let's say you had 100,000 records in this information. You do not want to have to scroll through 100,000 records to find the handful that do not currently have unit information entered. Instead, you'll want to filter for that information or lack thereof. You want to filter based on the units cell being empty. Okay, so if I wanted to do that, there really isn't an option here. Okay, well, technically there is if we scroll way to the bottom. There's actually one called blanks. But if you had, because basically what this is showing me is each unique value that's within that column, again, if I had 100,000 records, I could potentially have 100,000 unique pieces of information here I'd have to scroll through to get all the way to blanks. A better way to do it is to come up here to where it says number filters, okay? And we want to go to equals. And we want to say show rows where units equals blank. You're just going to leave that empty. And when I click OK, you can see now that it's pared it down to showing me only those two cells that units are empty. Okay? And you can see the filter running. See that right there? That little icon showing me that's what I'm filtering by. All right, I'm going to clear that filter. And let's do a couple more. Let's say, for instance, I'm interested in just seeing the top sales figures. Okay? So I don't really care about all of it. I just want to look at those that are at the very top. If I go to sales and I choose number filters, okay, I have the ability to utilize some of these other options here that are probably familiar to you from the conversation we had about conditional formatting. Very, very similar to that. All right. I can, for instance, come in here to top 10 and I can opt to see the top 10 items in the column I'm currently entered in. So that is crucial because remember I said I wanted to look at the top 10 sales. Okay, I want to make sure that I've used the drop-down arrow for sales, that I haven't left myself over in some other column. You want to make sure that you use the drop-down arrow for the category in which you want to search on, or you want to filter by. So I want to make sure I'm on sales, and then I'm going to go to top 10. Now, maybe I don't really want the top 10, maybe I only want the top 5. Or maybe if I have 100,000 records, I'm interested in the top 25 or the top 100. This is just the default setting of top 10. You can change that either by using these little spinners to alter the number, or you can also type in your own increments. So let's say I'm going to look at the top 15. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to pare the list down to the top 15 sales, okay, the top 15 largest sales numbers. Pretty good? And remember, we can do compound filters. So maybe now I want to see, okay, now that I know who the top 15 are, show me which ones are, I'm going to do equals, where region equals East. Okay, and I can see that there are 3 examples where the East had one of the top 15 sales. Okay, I'm going to clear this. And let's do one more. Let's come in here to sales. Okay, and we're just going to take a look here at some of the other options. So you can see I can also do equals, does not equal, so I can exclude things. I can do greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, between, so I can do a range. Maybe I'm only interested in something between, let's say, 3,000 and 5,000. Okay, maybe that's sort of like the average number of sales we do. I can look at that. Like I said, we can do top 10. One thing I didn't show you is that you can switch from top 10 to bottom 10. So you can look at just the lowest performing months as well. Okay. And then also we have above average and below average, which are 2 great filters to run. And then finally at the bottom you have something called custom filter. Custom filter is pretty much just like the other filters that we saw. The only difference here is that the idea is that you would do this right from scratch. Okay, so you wouldn't have the presets already filled in for you. All right. So the drop-down arrows we have here are essentially, if you look at this, the same thing as a lot of those choices we had from here. Equal, not equal, greater than, less than. When we go down to custom, equal, not equal, greater than, less than, a lot of them are here. But there are more options here. So let's say that I'm interested in places where sales are greater than, we'll do sales greater than 4,000, okay? And we're going to do a compound filter here. And let's see if we can do one of these. Where, let's see here. We'll do sales greater than 4,000. Whoops. Let's do a better one. Let's go over here to month. We'll do where a month, we'll do a begins with option. So you see we have options here that are different from the numeric options that are available. Okay, so we could do a custom filter where we could do where month begins with J, okay, and we'll scroll down a little, contains the letter U. Yeah, the letter U, that's good. Okay, so if we search on that, you can see our responses. We're going to get options for July and June, but we excluded January. Okay, January begins with J, but it doesn't have a U in it, or at least in the abbreviation we have here, just the 3-letter abbreviation. Okay, so that's a good example of a custom filter. The ability to use these multiple things here to create really unique scenarios. Now I just use individual letters. Please note there are wildcard options here. You can use a question mark to represent any single individual character, or an asterisk to represent any number of a series of characters. Okay, those are typical wildcards. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with them. If not, play around with them. Just remember the question mark stands in the place of one character. The asterisk stands in the place of an unknown quantity of characters. Could be one, could be none, could be a bunch. That's what the asterisk does. If I switch this to an OR statement, Okay, so months beginning with J or containing the letter U, you can see that I'm going to get a lot more information here. January is going to be included because it begins with a J. August is going to be included because it contains a U. So there's an example of the difference between and or.